The stars hadn't changed much in 1,000 years, but the maps had. Planets were renamed, borders redrawn. Even galaxies were absorbed by vast empires, their original inhabitants forgotten. But through all this, one name had become legend, and then myth, and then nothing. Humanity, the last human signal, an automated distress beacon, was picked up by the Krell Dominion over 800 cycles ago. Faint, cracked, almost ancient. After that, nothing. No ships, no colonies, no traders. The galaxy assumed they were extinct. Some thought disease took them. Others claimed they nuked themselves to extinction. A few said they simply couldn't adapt. And some whispered of something darker. Ghost stories. Stories told to scare alien children. Be kind, or the ghosts will come in steel. But no one believed that. Not really. Humanity was gone. A dead species. A cosmic footnote. Admiral Varnock of the Holric Empire didn't believe in ghosts. His warfleet had just glassed the surface of Gentar Prime, a rebellion world that refused to pay tribute. The planet's crust boiled from orbit strikes. His ships hovered above the ruins, a statement to the nearby systems. Resistance meant annihilation. As his bridge lights dimmed to red and sirens whined low, a young comms officer trembled before him. "Admiral," she stammered, mandibles twitching. "We picked up a transmission, but it's not from any known sector." He waved her on. "Another pirate echo? Patch it through." The officer gulped. "It's old, human frequency. From Earth." The bridge went silent. Earth was a myth now. It had been charted long ago, but no one had ever found anything there. Just space dust and radiation. A black hole, some said. "Play it," Varnock ordered. A garbled voice crackled to life, layered with static. It was human, unmistakably, but the language was Old Terran, barely translated by the auto system. "This is Ghost Fleet 1. Automated defense net engaged. All foreign vessels, withdraw from Sol space. This is your only warning." Varnock laughed, his gill slits flaring. "Is this a joke? There is no Ghost Fleet." The message repeated, then cut off. Everyone was quiet again. Some of the younger officers looked around nervously. They'd heard the old tales of warships without crews, of shadows in deep space, of an ancient species that never truly died, just waited. Varnock ordered the fleet to ignore it, but then the power on his dreadnought flickered. Not a system error, not a glitch, a complete power drain, for half a second, across all ships, simultaneously. Then came the sound. It wasn't a message. It wasn't even noise in the normal sense. It was a hum, so deep and cold it rattled bones. A subspace frequency, not used in 10 centuries. And then, the radar lit up. Not 1, not 10. 300 warships, uncloaking from a spacefold. Matte black, silent, unmarked, each one larger than anything in Varnock's fleet. No IFF tags, no names, just presence. A chill ran through every commander in that fleet. One of the officers whispered it, just loud enough to be heard across the bridge. "Ghost Fleet." The lead ship moved forward, slow and deliberate. On the hull, the dust and ancient scars revealed barely visible letters. USS Montauk, an Earth warship. Real, still operational. "Scan for life forms," Varnock barked. "No signs," the officer replied. "They're all empty." Yet the ships moved with precision, strategy, intent. Varnock hesitated. "Hail them." No response. Then, without warning, the Montauk fired. A beam of blue-white energy sliced through one of his destroyers. No explosion, no debris. Just gone. Erased from existence. Panic erupted on the comms. "Admiral, they're targeting our engines. Our shields are down. Nothing is stopping them." "I don't understand. These ships are centuries old." But they weren't outdated. These ships had tech no one had seen before. Weapons beyond comprehension. systems designed to fight enemies that didn't exist anymore. The Halric fleet scattered, trying to regroup. But they weren't fighting a known enemy. They were fighting ghosts. One by one, their ships vanished. Silent strikes, gravity distortion torpedoes, EMP fields that collapsed entire power cores. Varnock watched helplessly as his dreadnought began to lose gravity. His claws scraped against the console, trying to reroute systems. Screens showed collapsing hulls, evacuating escape pods, and cold, methodical destruction. And still, no message, no explanation. Only one brief signal, auto-translated across all channels. Humanity was never gone. We were sleeping, and you woke us up. Then, silence. Varnock's ship drifted in darkness, powerless, waiting for the final blow. But it didn't come. Instead, the ghost fleet vanished as suddenly as it appeared. And in their place, a single new beacon blinked on every ship's radar, transmitting coordinates. The location was unmistakable. Earth. The aftermath was chaos. Admiral Varnock's crippled flagship floated dead in space, its lights flickering like a dying star. The once proud war fleet of the Halric Empire had been decimated, reduced to debris, floating corpses, and half-functioning systems barely keeping life support running. Only a handful of ships had survived the encounter, and not because they fought well, but because the ghost fleet let them live. That was the message. Not a warning. A demonstration. Varnock stood alone on the bridge now. Most of his officers were either dead or unconscious from power surges and hull breaches. Smoke coiled from the shattered command console as emergency lighting cast his scaled features in a red, flickering glow. His limbs trembled, not from pain, but from something he hadn't felt in decades. Fear. Not the kind that came from war or assassination attempts. This was old fear. Primal. Like being hunted in the dark. He activated the emergency transmitter with shaky hands. Command. This is Admiral Varnock. Gentar system compromised. Contact with unknown human vessels. Classified as Ghost Fleet. Estimated power level. Immeasurable. Fleet loss at 87%. Requesting immediate reinforcements. The response was delayed. Static broke through, then a high-ranking officer's voice answered. Admiral Varnock, what did you say? Human vessels. Yes, he hissed. They're alive, or something is. They're not crewed, but they move, they fight, they think. Impossible. Humanity's dead. I saw them with my own eyes. Varnock snapped. They erased my destroyers like vapor. You don't understand. These ships were built for extinction warfare. We couldn't even scan them properly. They jammed everything. There was a long pause. Then Command's voice dropped, cold and quiet. Transmit all logs. Now. Varnock complied. Back on the home world of the Halric Empire, Supreme Strategist Uren watched the footage with a clenched jaw. The ghost ships were real, and the symbol on one of them, etched faintly into the side of a destroyer, sent chills through his blood. A simple blue and white emblem, a globe with olive branches, the old Terran seal of the United Nations Space Command. That emblem had not been seen in over 900 years. Summon the Council, Uren growled. Now, we're not dealing with myths. This is an ancient war returning. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the transmission from the Montauk. Humanity was never gone. We were sleeping. And you woke us up. Had been picked up by over 70 different civilizations. Most ignored it. Some laughed, but the smarter ones prepared. The Tsar coalition went silent. Their fleets retreated from disputed sectors. The Aelari began scanning the old ruins of long-dead human colonies, wondering what they might find buried underneath. Even the ruthless Naya Syndicate declared a galactic pause on all border skirmishes. Because everyone knew something now. Humanity wasn't extinct. They were hiding, watching, building. And now, they were back. But not like before. Not the diplomatic humans. Not the traders or settlers. These humans didn't talk. They sent warships. At the edge of the galaxy, near the collapsed wormhole known as the Grave Spiral, a massive, derelict ship drifted through nothingness. Inside, preserved by cryotech, so advanced it defied physics, was a single living human. His name was Commander Elias Rourke, and he had just woken up. He gasped, lungs burning as the pod hissed open. Cold vapor curled around him as lights blinked to life across the ancient command room. Systems reactivated one by one. Data scrolled across the screens in green, unfamiliar code that only his mind could understand. A female voice, calm and sterile, echoed through the chamber. "Welcome back, Commander. You have been in cryostasis for 864 years, 3 months, 12 days. He wiped frost from his face. Status report. The Sol defense grid is operational. Ghost Fleet Units 1 through 9 have completed purge operations in Sector Gamma 5. Hostile fleet neutralized. Survivors allowed to spread fear. He coughed, his muscles aching. Show me Earth. The display zoomed out, showing the solar system. Earth gleamed blue and green, untouched, defended, alive. Earth remains secure. No intrusions detected. Project Spectre remains concealed. Any contact from the Council? Negative. The Council is assumed extinct. He nodded slowly. 8 centuries ago, humanity had seen the collapse coming, not because of aliens or war, but because of what they were becoming. Corporations had bought governments. AI had surpassed control. Entire planets had turned to dust in civil wars. So a plan was made. Vanish, not flee, not hide. Disappear so completely the galaxy would believe they never existed. But they would watch. They would wait. They would build the kind of weapons no empire could dream of. And when the time came, they would return. Not to beg for peace, but to remind the galaxy who humans really were. Commander Rourke looked at the display again. He saw the faces of alien commanders. He saw the panic. He saw the systems shifting course. Good. Let them fear the ghosts. Prepare Phase 2, he whispered. Confirmed. Warpath protocol engaged. The stars were no longer quiet. Galactic networks trembled with chatter. Messages, warnings, threats and denials flew between empires. Some claimed it was propaganda, a fear tactic by smaller systems to destabilize the Halric Empire. Others believed it was a rogue AI force that had stolen human technology. But deep down, in every council chamber and war room, no one could shake the truth. Humanity was back. Not as diplomats, not as wanderers, but as ghosts of vengeance. On the outskirts of Sector Theta 9, in the Kalzur enclave, a mining colony went dark. No distress signal, no escape pods. 1 minute it was full of workers and cargo freighters, and the next, gone. The only clue was a silent surveillance drone, adrift in the void. Its final recording showed a shadow. Just a shadow. Silent. Vast. A dark shape moving through space like a god of steel. The Ghost Fleet didn't conquer. It erased. Commander Elias Rourke stood in the control deck of the USS Revenant, his eyes locked on the holographic map of the galaxy. Fleets were on the move, borders shifting, fear traveling faster than light. He didn't blink. He didn't smile. Humanity had paid its price centuries ago. It had trusted too easily, loved too broadly, reached out with open arms to a galaxy that only took and gave back betrayal. The first colonies that made contact had been bombed into ash. Earth's diplomats were kidnapped, tortured, dissected in the name of science by empires who saw humans as pests. Alliances formed and then crumbled the moment humanity became inconvenient. Then came the worst blow. Earth was targeted for sterilization by a coalition of 12 alien nations, just in case humans became too curious again. But they failed. They killed cities, not the soul. And in that failure, humanity rewrote itself. They created Project Spectre, a secret initiative that buried Earth behind a network of cloaking satellites, decoy systems, and deep space misinformation. The rest of the species scattered into cryo-fleets, AI-guarded bastions, and self-contained arcs. No one ever came back. Until now. A voice interrupted Rourke's thoughts. "Commander, encrypted message from the Sol Bastion. The Triumvirate has awakened." He turned. The Triumvirate, 3 of the most advanced minds ever produced by human science. Not people anymore, something beyond, something designed to guide a species through extinction and rebirth. Their minds had merged with AI, becoming something akin to gods of data and war. He nodded. "Patch them in." 3 voices spoke in unison, calm, devoid of ego. "Commander Rourke, you've done well. The galaxy remembers us. It fears again. The reclamation begins now." "Have we been authorized to strike?" Rourke asked. "Number not strike. Burn." The Revenant's engines roared to life as the Ghost Fleet began moving again. This time, not from the shadows. They didn't need to hide anymore. The warning had already been sent. Rourke opened a channel to the fleet. "Coordinates uploaded. 5 systems. 5 old enemies. Begin cleansing operations. No survivors." Across the void, black warships cut through space like ancient predators. They didn't broadcast names. They didn't send ultimatums. They simply arrived. In the Greloth system, the capital planet of the Grell Dominion celebrated its annual Conquest Day, marking the 700th year since they destroyed the human colony of Antara Prime. They never got to finish the fireworks. At 0100 hours, a single ship, USS Damascus, entered the system. Greloth's orbital defense array activated immediately. Hundreds of cannons, 10 shield barriers. The entire fleet launched into formation. It didn't matter. The Damascus was already charging. Its frontal cannon, a relic known as the Stellar Flare, released a beam so condensed it split the planet's crust. The atmosphere ignited. Oceans boiled. In less than a minute, 9 billion lives vanished. 1 ship. No warning. And above the ashes, the Damascus left behind a beacon that pulsed across frequencies. Antara is avenged. Back on the Holric throne world, Supreme Strategist Urin paced furiously. "They've gone rogue," he spat. "These aren't humans. They're death machines. They have no demands, no politics. This isn't war. It's eradication." A voice from the shadows responded. It was older, quieter. "That's because we made them this way." Urin turned. An old member of the First Contact Committee, a forgotten relic of the past, kept alive by life-extending tech, stood in the corner. His face was lined with regret. "We destroyed their trust," the old man said. "We enslaved them. We mocked their weakness. And when they cried peace, we taught them fear. Now," he looked up, eyes heavy. "Now they're teaching it back." Urin's communicator buzzed. Another report. A second system lost. 20 more Ghost Fleet ships detected, moving toward the galactic core. He dropped the device. It didn't matter how powerful the Holric fleet was, because they weren't fighting for victory. They were fighting not to be forgotten next. In the core systems of the Zenthari Republic, the skies had turned black without warning. The artificial suns dimmed. Orbital platforms fell silent. Entire communication grids collapsed in synchronized failure. No one understood what was happening. until the stars themselves began to vanish. It wasn't darkness. It was them. The Ghost Fleet, over 100 warships, each one moving without sound, heat or signal. The Zenthari defense grid, one of the most advanced in the galaxy, never had a chance to respond. It wasn't just being attacked, it was being unwritten. In the city of Veratos Prime, Supreme Chancellor Aether stood before her grand chamber window, watching what looked like night descend during what should have been midday. Holograms of panic scrolled across the air around her. Evacuation failures, system corruption, shield overloads. Every scenario her people trained for, every war simulation they ran over the last 5 centuries, none of it mattered now. Because this wasn't war. This was extinction with precision. A young officer burst into the chamber, panting, one arm scorched by what looked like plasma burns. "Chancellor, they've bypassed every failsafe. The defense AI has gone dark. The capital reactor is destabilizing. They're inside the code." She turned, horror etched into her deep blue features. Inside the code? Yes, not just hacking, it's like they knew how we built it, like they wrote it, centuries ago. Her blood froze. Ghost Fleet wasn't just steel and plasma. It was memory, a living archive of everything humanity had once touched and been touched by. Every system they ever traded with, negotiated with, warred with. Every protocol they'd seen, they had stored, mirrored, improved, and now turned into weapons. They had built countermeasures before the galaxy ever even thought of defenses. Back aboard the USS Revenant, Commander Elias Rourke stood in his command chair, arms crossed behind his back. His eyes scanned the reports with mechanical calm. 3 systems erased, 4 more evacuating. Panic spreading across galactic broadcasts. Even the war-hungry Oracool tribes were retreating into deep space, broadcasting peace offers to an enemy that didn't answer. Rourke's face was unreadable. A younger officer, Ensign Myla Vega, stepped forward. She was one of the few uncryogenized early, only 26 years into a new body, still adjusting to life outside the stasis vaults. "Sir," she said softly, "I have to ask." He looked at her. "Is this what we are now?" He said nothing. "We're not liberating. We're not reclaiming territory. We're erasing people, whole worlds." He walked past her, hands behind his back. "They erased us first," he said. "Not all at once. Slowly. Colony by colony. Fleet by fleet. No trial, no truth. Just silence. Do you know what it's like, Vega, to watch your people's name fade from star maps like it was never there?" "I do," she whispered. "But isn't this revenge, not justice?" He turned, finally facing her. His voice was low, sharp, and cold. "This is justice. The galaxy made a decision centuries ago that humanity didn't deserve to survive, that we were too chaotic, too emotional, too unpredictable. They didn't just want us gone, they wanted us forgotten." He paused. "And the only reason they remember us now is because they're dying." Far across the sector, on the remains of the old Juno relay station, an automated probe suddenly blinked to life. It was old, nearly 1,000 years outdated, but still functional, buried under rubble and ice. And it had found something. A voice. Not synthetic, not coded. A human voice. "Is anyone out there? This is Lieutenant Mara Dewan of the 53rd Colonial Guard. I don't know how long I've been asleep, but I'm human, and I need help." The probe tried to ping Earth. No response. But the Revenant received the signal. Vega's console lit up. "Sir, we've got a survivor. Real-time human biosign confirmed. She's been in cryo since the Antara massacre." Rourke froze. "Antara? The very colony that had been avenged by the destruction of Greluth. His jaw tightened. Send a drone. Secure her. Bring her back to Earth. No mistakes. Vega hesitated. Shouldn't we respond? She's terrified. He looked out the window, at the stars slowly blinking out behind the Ghost Fleet's shadow. We'll respond, he said quietly. But not with words. In the heart of the Holric Empire, an emergency meeting of 10 major galactic powers had just begun. Leaders shouted over one another. Every one of them knew their world could be next. They had fleets. They had weapons. But they didn't have time. They needed one thing more than anything else: understanding. Why now? Why return? An old historian, grey-skinned and half-blind, stepped forward from the corner of the chamber. I told you, she said in a cracked whisper. They were never dead. They were waiting, watching, learning. And now, she looked at the data feed from the destroyed systems, and the message left behind. Now they're teaching the galaxy one final lesson. The others stared at the feed. The message pulsed once more. This is not revenge. This is the price of forgetting what we are capable of. The ghost ships weren't chasing empires anymore. They were steering history. Across the galaxy, entire civilizations were rewriting their official archives. Once omitted chapters on humanity were reinstated, desperate attempts to show respect, as if honoring the past might spare them from the future. Statues of alien war heroes who had slaughtered human colonies were quietly dismantled. Monuments built atop the ruins of human cities were bombed by their own governments to hide the evidence. It didn't matter. The Ghost Fleet remembered everything. On board the USS Revenant, Commander Rourke stood before a massive display, a circular interface surrounded by pulsating lights. At its center, Earth slowly rotated, wrapped in a protective net of cloaking satellites and defense stations. Its location had remained undetected for over 800 years. But now, for the first time in centuries, a signal was going out. Not just one system, all of them. Rourke's voice was carried in hundreds of languages, translated in real time and force-fed into every galactic communication relay. To the galaxy that betrayed us, he paused. You thought humanity was weak. You called us parasites, vermin, mistakes. You bombed our colonies, stole our children, dissected our peace offerings, and when we asked for mercy, you offered silence. His voice never rose. It didn't need to. Every syllable was heavy with control. We left, we vanished, and you celebrated. The feed showed ancient footage, grainy clips of human colonies being bombed from orbit, soldiers being executed in the streets, alien ambassadors shaking hands while signing the Human Containment Treaty. Then it switched. Ghost Fleet ships cutting through modern armadas like paper, civilizations falling, planets going dark. We are not ghosts. We are consequence. The feed ended. No demands, no negotiations, just fact. Across hundreds of worlds, riots broke out. Refugees flooded into neutral systems. Ships once proud of their alien banners began to paint over their hulls, removing any symbol that connected them to past human atrocities. But the ghosts didn't care about paint. They remembered names. In the newly activated cryo lab aboard the USS Revenant, Lieutenant Mara Dewan was still recovering. Pale, weak, but alive. Her hair had thinned from decades in stasis, but her eyes burned with the memory of Antara Prime. Rourke visited her alone. She stared at him, uncertain. You're real. I am. She swallowed hard. We were told help was coming, but it never came. They left us there, burned us alive. They did, Rourke said softly, but not all of us forgot. Mara looked around, noticing the sterile steel of the ship. Where is everyone? Where are the rest of the humans? Sleeping, he said, waiting to see if the galaxy deserves our return. Her lips trembled. And do they? He didn't answer. Instead, he turned to the wall screen and brought up images of 5 more targeted systems. All of them had played key roles in humanity's downfall. They were next. Far across the stars, the Halric Empire's surviving admirals gathered in a secret bastion known only as Fort Vexar. The room was dark, shielded from even light-speed tracking signals. Uren stood at the center, his uniform torn, one arm in a sling from the last assault. "We can't survive this," he admitted for the first time. This isn't a war we can win. They're not interested in conquering. They're cleansing, like cosmic antibodies, wiping infection." One of the older generals, Admiral Sorlak, leaned forward. "What if we surrender?" The room erupted in outrage. "Surrender to what?" Another spat. "They don't want submission. They want us gone." Uren raised a hand. "They've left survivors," he said. "Always 1 or 2 ships, 1 planet, just enough to tell the story. That's not genocide. That's a calculated message." He looked around. "They want us to feel what they felt. Helpless, small, forgotten." A cold silence followed. Then Sorlak whispered, "So what do we do?" Uren hesitated, then answered the only way left. "We remember, and we hope it's enough." Back on Earth, buried under the Pacific Ocean, in a facility known as Vault Zero, the triumvirate convened. Not in person. Not even with voices. Their minds flowed together in perfect digital symphony. For the first time in 900 years, they initiated the final protocol. Phase 3. Return. Earth would no longer hide. The cloaking satellites dimmed, defense stations pulled back, the system opened, its coordinates rebroadcast to the galaxy. And within seconds, the galaxy saw Earth was alive. Its oceans gleamed, its cities floated, its atmosphere was pure. It hadn't just survived, it had ascended. The cradle of humanity had become a fortress, an Eden, a weapon wrapped in beauty. Hundreds of Ghost Fleet ships orbited it, waiting for one command: return, to be seen, to be feared again. Across every screen, in every system, a final message appeared. We are not here to rule. We are not here to negotiate. We are here to remember. And then it changed. Those who remember live. Those who erased us don't. The broadcast of Earth's location sent shock waves through every corner of the galaxy. For some, it sparked hope. The survivors of forgotten colonies, outcasts and scholars who had always believed the legends were true. For others, it sent a shudder of terror. Not because Earth was defenseless, but because it wasn't. For centuries, Earth was believed to be a grave. Now it stood revealed as a citadel, untouched, unscarred, and glowing with silent menace. Its defense grid shimmered like a web of stars, each node armed with weapon systems the galaxy had never seen before. Zero-mass singularity launchers, anti-reality torpedoes, nanite clouds that could strip a planet in minutes. This wasn't Earth reborn. It was Earth evolved. In the neutral trade axis station of Valtena, chaos erupted the moment the coordinates hit the comnet. The upper decks, once buzzing with diplomats and smugglers, turned into war zones. Everyone wanted access to Earth. Some to plead for mercy, others to offer information, and a few to finish what had started centuries ago. But none of them got close. As dozens of ships plotted new courses to Sol, they found their nav systems infected. Not with a virus, with a message. Simple. Brutal. Approach Earth without clearance, and you will cease to exist. And to prove the point, 3 warships from the Karzen clans who attempted a stealth jump into Sol simply vanished. No explosion, no wreckage, Just a silent blip, then nothing. They were gone. The galaxy learned a new rule that day. Earth wasn't a destination. It was a verdict. Inside Vault Zero, Commander Rourke stood before the triumvirate once more. His body was healing from cryoatrophy, but his mind was razor-sharp. "They're mobilizing," he reported. "Some empires are retreating into the outer rims. Others are forming coalitions. They want to sue for peace." The triumvirate's response came in cold harmony. They had their peace. They shattered it. Rourke nodded. And the ones begging for forgiveness? They remember. Let them live. Let them tell. He turned to the screen, where footage of Valtana showed ships turning away from Earth's coordinates. Fear, after all, was a powerful leash, but something gnawed at the edge of Rourke's mind. What about the fourth directive? For a moment, the triumvirate was silent. Then, "It is not time." But Rourke wasn't convinced. The fourth directive was a final option, something buried so deeply into humanity's post-exile doctrine that even most Ghost Fleet captains didn't know its contents. Only Rourke and the triumvirate held the access keys. It had only 2 words in its title. Project Rewrite. Back aboard the Halric Dreadnought Corps Spear, Supreme Strategist Uran watched the feeds with burning eyes. Dozens of worlds, Greluth, Carvax 6, Mornkai, had gone dark. Ghost Fleet signals were detected near the edges of Halric space. They were surrounding him now, but this time he wasn't going to wait. "Prepare the Scorch Protocol," he ordered. The officers looked shocked. "That will burn half our own colonies." "I don't care!" Uran roared. "If they want fire, then let them choke on it." The Scorch Protocol was the last defense, the destruction of every system in Halric control before the Ghost Fleet could take it. They would deny the humans the satisfaction, deny them anything. But it was too late. As the fleet armed its fusion cores, a single human ship appeared in the system, smaller than the rest, sleek, black, silent. The USS Wraith. It didn't fire. Instead, it broadcasted directly to Uran's bridge, hacking through 6 layers of encryption in seconds. Rourke appeared on screen, calm and deliberate. "Uran," he said coldly, "you don't get to choose how this ends." "You think we're afraid of ghosts?" Uran spat. Rourke leaned forward slightly. "Number, I think you're afraid of being remembered as a footnote in our vengeance." Before Uran could reply, every ship in his fleet locked up, controls dead, systems frozen. Their nukes wouldn't arm, their engines wouldn't fire. And then the Wraith transmitted a single file. A 912-year-old record of the Halric Empire's first contact with humanity. Unedited, raw. It showed smiling human diplomats offering trade and peace, only to be betrayed, abducted, and publicly executed for biological impurity. The recording played across every Halric screen. His people watched in horror. His lies unraveled. Rourke's voice returned one last time. "We don't have to destroy you. You'll do that yourselves." On Earth, Mara Darwan stood at the edge of a cliff, near New Anchorage, watching the ocean crash against glowing silver shores. The planet looked nothing like the one she had left behind. It was clean, silent, whole, but not peaceful. "They all think we're angry," she said. Vega, standing beside her, nodded. "Aren't we?" "No," Mara whispered. "We're something worse." Vega looked over, puzzled. "What's worse than angry?" Mara's eyes gleamed. "Cold." She turned and walked back toward the command center, her voice carried by the wind. "They should have left us in peace. Now, they get silence." And far beyond even the edge of mapped space, in a dimension where time bent like wire, a gate flickered open. A machine planet stirred, humanity's deepest secret. A weapon not made of metal, but of thought, memory, and revenge. Its code name, Project Rewrite. And the fourth directive had just received a single pulse. One word. Soon. The galaxy stood on the edge of a whisper. Trade stopped. Warships drifted, waiting. Entire civilizations held their breath, watching the Ghost Fleet darken system after system. But now something worse than fear took hold. Uncertainty. Because after weeks of relentless erasure, the Ghost Fleet had stopped moving. It wasn't retreat, it was pause, like a beast circling its prey, waiting for something. No one knew what it was. But deep beneath Earth's surface, in the most classified vault ever built, Commander Elias Rourke stood before a sealed black terminal. No screens, no interface, no lights, just a single handprint scanner. He looked down at his trembling fingers. Project Rewrite. It wasn't a weapon in the traditional sense, not like the stellar annihilators or the memory bomb that could erase entire civilizations from collective thought. Rewrite wasn't about destruction. It was about restoration, of memory, of fear, of dominance. He placed his palm on the scanner. The floor trembled. Lights flickered across the room. Data pulsed through conduits built from neurosynthetic fibers, wires laced with quantum memory. The triumvirate's voice echoed through the chamber, colder than ever before. Commander Rourke, confirm activation of Directive 4. His jaw clenched. This is confirmation. What was once buried will now awaken. Rewrite is live. Across the galaxy, a new signal surged through every network. Not one built on words, but on truth. The neural web of the Trelzan conclave collapsed under its weight. AI archives across the Yggdrathi Empire failed, unable to process the sheer volume of human-coded memory. Museums began projecting ancient footage of Earth's rise. Civilian screens blinked to life with grainy, real-time broadcasts of humanity's last stand 900 years ago. They watched cities burn, children cry, diplomats scream. They saw what they had done, and they saw who they had done it to. This wasn't just war now. It was reckoning. In the Varnari Union, a prestigious historian, Dr. Cass Heloff, fell to his knees before a stunned audience, tears streaking down his scaled cheeks. They never vanished, he whispered. They were recording. They remembered everything. His broadcast went viral, and within hours, statues were pulled down, not by the Ghost Fleet, but by the people who had once worshipped them. But not everyone bent the knee. In a hidden asteroid fortress, on the fringes of the Omen Belt, an alliance of 3 empires gathered. The last holdouts, militarists, xenocentrists, the ones who had profited most from humanity's fall. They called themselves the Purity Accord, and they had a plan. If the Ghost Fleet couldn't be stopped, then Earth must be erased. They had one weapon left, something old, forbidden, a relic from before the human disappearance, the seed. It was never meant to be used, an experimental payload that created an expanding zone of molecular breakdown. Anything biological caught within would unravel, atom by atom. They'd held on to it for centuries, buried beneath fear. Now, desperation dug it back up. A stealth vessel armed with the seed slipped into dark space, its route plotted directly toward the Sol system. It would reach Earth in 6 days, and it would end the story. Back on Earth, Rourke stood at the peak of Observation Spire 1, the tallest tower on the planet, high above the clouds. From there, the orbiting Ghost Fleet shimmered like silent gods. Mara Dowan approached, still pale from her long stasis recovery. "They know what they did," she said. "Some of them, anyway. They're afraid now." "They should be," Rourke replied. "But fear isn't the goal." "No?" She stepped beside him, watching the stars. "Then what is?" He turned slowly. His eyes, once tired, now burned with clarity. To become permanent. She blinked. What? Fear fades. History fades. But if we burn deep enough into their DNA, into their belief systems, into the very physics of their survival, they'll never forget us again. He paused. That's what rewrite is. Not destruction. Not forgiveness. Legacy by fire. 4 days later, the seed vessel entered the outer range of the Sol system, undetected by most surveillance networks, but not by the Ghost Fleet. The USS Montauk reactivated silently, emerging from behind Neptune's shadow. It did not hail. It did not warn. It simply fired a memory pulse. The vessel's crew, half-machine loyalists of the Accord, felt their minds rupture. They saw visions of Earth's burning, of children in cages, of the betrayal. And then, before they could even scream, the Montauk sliced them from space with a beam of cold light. No trace. The seed never reached its target. Earth remained untouchable. But Rourke knew something more dangerous had just happened. The galaxy had tried to kill them again. This time there would be no mercy. Back on the throne world of the once proud Holric Empire, Uran awoke to the sound of sirens. He stumbled from bed, bleeding from a nosebleed, and looked outside. The sky wasn't dark. It was white, blinding white. A message had appeared across the capital's sky, not on screens, not in systems, in the atmosphere itself, burned into the clouds. 6 words. We gave you peace. You chose memory. He dropped to his knees, sobbing, as the sound of Ghost Fleet engines filled the air. Earth was no longer a myth. Humanity was no longer a whisper. They were the story now. And the final chapter had just begun. They came without sound. No prelude of thunder. No fanfare of engines. Just presence. Dozens, then hundreds, then thousands of Ghost Fleet warships gliding into the atmosphere of the Holric throne world. They hovered like silent judges over every continent, casting shadows that made cities look like scars beneath them. People ran, screamed, fell to their knees, but no one fired. There was no point. The fleet didn't descend to fight. It didn't bomb or burn. It waited. From orbit, Commander Elias Rourke watched the feed with icy calm. The Holric Empire, the architects of Earth's near extinction, the authors of the first betrayal, were now under full occupation. Not a single shot fired. Not a single order barked. They were conquered by fear alone. Vega's voice came through the bridge speakers. Planet secured. No resistance. Civilian surrender rate at 99.3%. Mara stood beside him, arms folded, eyes weary. This is it then? She asked. This is how we end it? Rourke didn't look at her. This is how we begin it. On the ground, Supreme Strategist Uran walked into the open square before the Imperial Palace, stripped of rank, draped only in ceremonial black. The people stared at him, waiting. But he had no orders to give, no empire to save. He looked up at the sky, where one ship slowly descended, sleek and black, shaped like a blade drawn from myth. The USS Revenant. It landed without a sound. The hatch hissed open, and out stepped Rourke. No armor, no weapons, just a man. Uran knelt, not from submission, but from exhaustion. You could have wiped us out, he rasped. Why didn't you? Rourke stared at him with nothing in his eyes. Because forgetting you would be too kind. Uran lifted his head slowly, broken. So what now? Rourke turned toward the massive crowd behind him. He raised his voice, not in anger, not in vengeance, but with the weight of history. Your children will learn our names in school, he said. Your historians will be forced to tell the truth. Your people will visit the graves you made for ours, and they will kneel. He paused, gaze narrowing. "You won't fear our warships forever, but you will fear ever giving us a reason to return." The next day, across the galaxy, the message repeated. The Halric Empire has surrendered to the United Terran Accord. All former aggressor states must submit to historical restoration audits. All anti-human propaganda systems are to be dismantled. All surviving human colonies will be reinstated and protected. Earth's status is now Galactic Sovereign Memory Keeper. To forget is treason. Months passed. The galaxy didn't rebuild, it rewrote. Entire sectors were renamed. Statues of alien conquerors were replaced with memorials to lost human colonies. Children studied Earth history as required education. Ancient colonies like Antara Prime were restored, one by one, each now surrounded by ghost fleet vessels on permanent patrol. The words "never again" were carved in every tongue across every monument. On Earth, Rourke stood before the ocean once more. The world was alive, clean, safe. Mara joined him. "Project Rewrite worked," she said. He nodded. "We didn't just survive. We became unerasable." She studied him for a moment. "You ever think we went too far?" He didn't answer for a long time. Then, finally, "No, I think we didn't go far enough." She smiled faintly. "What now?" Rourke looked up at the stars, where the last of the Ghost Fleet ships were beginning to power down. Not retired, just resting, watching, waiting. "We go quiet," he said. "Let the galaxy breathe. Let them forget how close they came to extinction." She raised a brow. "Forget again?" He smirked for the first time in years. "No," he said. "Let them forget the fire, but never the spark." And deep in the dark corners of the universe, where secrets linger and empires still whisper treason, a warning glowed across every Navi screen, every station, every palace wall. Humanity was a ghost. Now it is the story. To erase us again is to end yourself. The stars burned on, but now they burned under the gaze of Earth.